So you were probably expecting someone else to be in this window with me. Unfortunately, right at the moment, Charles is in a little bit of a noisy place. So we're just waiting for him to get to a place that's, well, slightly less noisy. So whilst we wait for him, we'll play something from the Picassos that a lot of you should recognise by now, I would say. Here we go for a start. Hope you're all having a lovely day. Welcome to the Roundup, everybody. And now for all those people watching, we do that thing where it's a bit weird. Like, everyone has always wanted me to do DJ cams, right? What do you do at this point? I don't know. No idea. It's exciting, isn't it? That's me checking the audio works, because you wanted to see that. And this is me checking that my vocals work as well. And they do. It's great, happy days. So this is the Picasso Smoking Mirrors you're listening to. We're just waiting for Charles to get off the road. Just waiting for him to get off the road. It's a bit noisy area there. I think we have a child joining us very shortly. Please. Here he is.
Oh.
Hey, I think I can hear you. Hey, that's much better. Much better. Can you hear me? Can you hear the music? Is the music?
I can. Yep. That's you're playing me in.
I am playing. You are listening to XRP Radio. In that specific instance, you're listening to the Picassos, and in this specific instance, you're listening to the voice of Charles Urban. Hello, Charles.
Hey, Tizz.
How are you? Oh, we did it at the same time. I'm okay. How are you?
I'm good. I found a shady cemetery to take our call today.
That is so you. I couldn't think of a better place for you to be.
No, yeah, there's a couple nice ones down the street from me, so I like to sit in the morning and contemplate once in a while.
I mean, what more can... You've came straight in the exact way that I expected you, to be fair. Just
yes.
talking about chilling in graveyards.
I'm sorry.
Just talking about chilling in graveyards. It's great.
I mean, I can't imagine anything I'd rather do.
I can't think of anything that I could expect you'd rather do either. So, what? You having an exciting day? What have we torn you away from?
Well, I mean, it's 8 a.m. here, so we just got started, to be honest. I'm gonna find some coffee shortly, but I've been doing a new thing where I kind of hold up on the coffee intake until a little bit after I wake up to like maybe brave the day a little bit with pure unadulterated awareness.
That sounds horrific.
Yes. But it is certainly well worth it to catch you here. So I'm glad to be on. I'm glad you're taking the time to speak with me today.
Thank you very, very, very much for joining us. It's okay, don't worry, because you may think that this is like 5 minutes past 1 in the afternoon in the UK, so Tizz must be wide awake and bushy tailed. But no, I actually live in Central Standard Time, even though I'm in the UK. So
Oh,
I've only just woke up myself.
how fun.
So we're on even footings at the moment, which is good. Um, so oh.
Are you good? I'm good. You hear
I
me all
think
right?
we did. I think we had a moment, didn't we?
Joyce.
It's okay. It's okay. Well, you've I'm trying so much to make these roundups less interviewee and more co-hosty. However,
Sure.
you have brought out a load of new music which needs a hat to be tipped in its general direction.
I mean, thank you so much. We were so excited to share it.
I'm excited to have it shared. So, as per normal, you tend to have a bit of a theme, flow, idea, concept. What is it for these latest releases?
So you would be right. So Divination Scars, and subtitled Among the Dead in Symmetry, is been a long time coming, certainly, in that I think when we last spoke, we had covered our release Exhumed, which was more or less a
Yes.
compilation of every single that we had put out, plus a few B-sides, more or less. I think the track you displayed, Smoke and Mirrors, that was recorded specifically for that release. But
Hmm.
those were all kind of older tracks that we had either released as singles or just had been playing out for quite some time, and we just think they deserved a cohesive release. So I never would have
Yeah.
called that a record or an album in the general sense that they were written, recorded, and intended to be played together that way. But we think
Yeah.
it kind of worked out as kind of our general sampler platter of everything that you could expect from us at the time.
Hmm.
So now, fast forward, we're a year later. We've been hard at work at the completion and then release of Divination Scars, which has new and a little bit older tracks, some of which date back to that same era of me writing, I suppose, the stuff prior to Exhumed. But
Hmm.
generally, these are all almost reimaginings or, frankly, brand new songs that we had written and recorded over the past
Okay.
couple year, I guess, year and a half, really. We started recording last summer, and then we had just been gussied them up ever since.
Yeah.
But if you're looking for a storyline, I guess one kind of presented itself throughout the process of
Okay.
realizing the track listing and the general themes of the song. Some included, I guess, front to back were, of course, this may shock some listeners, or especially if you are unfamiliar or very familiar, but it is in fact about death.
Oh,
Um,
really?
and yeah, I mean, it sneaks in there, right? It does. I don't think it certainly hits you over the head with a title track or anything. Um, but yeah, so certainly death, dying, the resentment of dying, the want of potentially living forever, and then coming to terms with the fact that we are all destined to share that final frontier of
Hmm.
the forever eternity of the dark and hopefully peace that comes with death. And there are themes of vampirism, or maybe the want and, I guess, putting on the pedestal these ideas of immortality, only to realize that no one is guaranteed anything, even those. I like to think there's a bit of a narrative overall, and let me know if I'm going off in a tangent here. But specifically, the couple tracks, Leather Wings, Children of the Night, they talk from the perspective of a living vampire and their experience with living forever and realizing it's not all it's chalked up to be. Um, and wanting this eternal night to end in one capacity or another. So I guess that's all, everything in a nutshell there.
I like it. As always, mind warpingly deep look into death. I like
Yes.
it. So the first single that you put out as it all came out due streaming, what was it, 3 days ago? On the 12th?
We had put out the first single, Thousand Eyes Restrict, back in April.
Okay.
It ended up releasing April 1st, so April Fools. And we kind of like the connotation of like the tarot cards of the Fool, and
Hmm.
like, is this a good decision? And we just kind of let destiny decide if this was the right move at the time. But yeah, Thousand Eyes Restrict was the first, and then Weird Sisters followed that. And I guess we've just kind of released a full record and have plans to see what would be the final length singles after that.
Cool. Well, I think we should take a look at those first two, most certainly. So I'm going to play Thousand Eyes Restrict, and then I'm going to make you tell us about Thousand Eyes Restrict, and then we'll go from there.
Splendid.
Um, let's go. I'd say that string sound right at the start of that. I can't remember which one it is, but I was expecting it to go into the theme tune from either Captain Scarlet, Thunderbirds, or Stingray. I can't remember which one it is that starts like. But it's the
It does
exact
have
same string tone.
like almost like a video game quality.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, it was. Well, I guess we'll listen to the song. I'll
The Picasso Thousands Eyes restrict here on XRP Radio. Um, yep, definitely got that typical Picasso's moody feel, which we've come to adore. I remember when you bought out Smoke and Mirrors, and I chatted to you back then. You spoke about maybe I think the words were making some of your tracks a little bit more accessible than they may have previously been, and I would say that you seem to be following through with that a little bit more as well.
I
Maybe.
I would think, if you mean like in a general, like, I don't know, pop sensibility.
Yeah.
I guess we draw from so many things that I think it just eventually seeps into our the psyche and the sonic waves of that.
Hmm.
But we're all about the hook, I guess, is about how can we make this as rooted in your head? How can we become the earworm that we like, that we the songs that we like? Uh,
Hmm.
how can we create that in our own sound? Um, but yeah, that was one that really kind of developed over time. But um, it started out very simply with the chords, or the four chord structure is as it is. I played it on an old keyboard, on like a weird synth setting, and I realized I
Hmm.
really liked the those four notes together. And I'm like, how far can I go with just these four notes? And it just kind of goes on from there. But you noted the what we lovingly referred to as the needle drop, the pin drop, because it's such like a harsh point in the song at the
Hmm.
beginning, that part at the beginning, the bridge in the end. But I think it kind of sounds like almost a video game or something weird and ethereal, atmospheric, that I think just kind of it begins, and it's a recurring motif in the song itself. Um,
Yeah. I mean, it has to be said that you do use I mean, you're not just guitar, bass, drums, singing band. There's a lot of extra sounds in what you're using. Is there any? Do you kind of just sit in a room with a load of instruments, or sit in front of a keyboard with a load of patch sounds, or all of a sudden you're sitting there and go, "This needs a violin drop at the start," and I know it needs that, or how did you develop your usage of extra sounds?
well, funny enough, this one originated. I think I was just messing around with some synthy noises in my very rudimentary recording setup. I when I demo, I usually use GarageBand. But that was one of the sounds that I did on the original demo that I'm like, well, we have to continue with this, because I knew I wanted something to begin the song. And that was like
Mm-hmm.
the first thing that it occurred to me. I think it's some kind of like smoky synth, almost a glass noise. But it just
Mm-hmm.
kind of sounds like, to me, the absence of sound, but like a needle dropping in utter silence, or an echoey cavern or something like.
Mm-hmm.
But thankfully, you hear some actual synths being played on this song, and that's our recent addition. That's our keyboardist. We're now a four piece. In his name is.
Okay. Oh, very cool. How long? I missed that. How long's Joe been with you?
Since we started playing out at some point last year, after we released Exhumed, I think he was on.
Okay.
At least that might have been his first show with us, though I think we did a couple acoustic things prior to the full entourage. Uh,
Okay.
but he's been playing out with us since, and now he's a full-fledged member on this current release. So are expanding our forces.
Very cool. Very cool. And talking about expanding forces, not just getting a new keyboard player, but a featured artist on Weird Sisters.
Indeed.
How did you meet Sarah Rose? How did that come about?
Funny enough, we had played with Sarah Safe Word in in and around Detroit a couple times over the past couple of years when we had initially met them. Oh, I couldn't tell you what year it was, but we I just fell in love with each other's band, I guess, and we've been trying to get on every show we can with them ever since. They're actually originate from, well, U.S. Georgia,
Hmm.
the state Atlanta area, I understand, and I know that they have since moved to different parts of the country. But whenever we can get on a bill with them, we struggle real hard to try to make that happen. We just played with them again a couple weeks ago with on their tour, in fact, with Schaefer James, and an old friend of ours, Endless Mike in the Beagle Club, was on that same bill, and we had played
Excellent.
in a place called the Sanctuary in Detroit. So we really enjoyed that, and we actually had Sarah join us on stage for this song, Weird Sisters, and that was our first
Excellent.
initial time to play it out and have her join us. So that was a excellent opportunity to finally let that all happen, and because we had done it obviously remotely, like she sent in her parts
Hmm.
to us um, before she hit the road, so we were able to get that done. But that was our maiden voyage, as it was.
That's awesome. Were you able to rehearse it then, or was
we
it
we
just kind
just
of a?
we kind of
Yeah.
discussed, and she gets what we're going for. When I
Hmm.
gave her the only real tips was something witchy, because
Okay.
it's a witch inspired song, and all sorts of esoteric witchcraft and things of that nature, but through the guise of a swing song, in which, if you're familiar with Sarah Safeword, and I highly encourage anyone who isn't, they take from all over genres as well. So they actually
Hmm.
just played around the UK on this tour. I know they had a couple
Okay.
dates, so I don't know if word got around yet, but yeah, they are an incredible band. Highly encourage anyone listening.
So with this song, was how do I put it? Did you kind of have the song made and you thought, damn, this will work with Sarah, or was it kind of the other way around? Oh, we really want to write a song. This is what it's going to be.
Funnier
If that
still
makes
about this
sense.
song, and if we ever get the other guys involved in a full-fledged interview, they'll probably remark that this song was something that I had in my back pocket for a while that I wasn't
Okay.
really sure about. And up until realizing that we had an opportunity to record it fully, and then I realized that if we were going to record it, I needed a second voice on there, at least in the bridge, and just to kind of cement the new flavor to it, I suppose. And Sarah's an artist that I've wanted to work with since we met, essentially. Realizing that we're kind of cut from the same cloth as far as the
Hmm.
dark and spooky and just the eclectic esotericism that I think we all vibe with, some way or another. We certainly wanted to work with her, so that was the perfect opportunity when I realized that this was the track to do that.
Excellent. Well, without further ado, let's have a listen. This is Weird Sisters featuring Sarah Rose from, believe it or not, the Picassos. Great old movie vibe there.
Well, we love it. That's a Joe special.
Sending chills down down your spine, turning a frenzy to life. But I won't ever make you wanna dance. Shake your hands out, stand beside another page. A guilty night, leave out the part you wrote. Your name is light. Surrounded by tattoo witches, midnight altars, like the breaking of your bones. Mass hysteria.
can't help but dance to that. I'm trying to restrict my excessive movements in my chair.
Surrounded by cats and witches, midnight altars by the breaking of your soul. Mass hysterics, crash commotion. You can have to act, you don't need to walk around. Some wickedness like a
Weird Sisters featuring Sarah Rose from the Picassos here on XRP Radio, and you know what, Charles? That it gives me instant vibes of the Oogie Boogie dance in The Nightmare Before Christmas, of all things.
We'll absolutely take that. That is no small feat
Yeah, it's
to
got
accomplish that Danny Elfman sound, I guess.
that, and the whatever it's called, the monkey swing from the Jungle Book as well.
Sure. Yeah. I mean it is
Swingy,
guess-
dancey
yeah.
brilliance.
absolutely that's definitely all the influences, the show tunes, the animated stuff. I mean, it seeps into everything we're doing, I guess.
Yeah, it's just really bouncy, catchy. That is an awesome piece of music.
It means so much. I'd only really played the track acoustic for quite some time, and had just bigger, broader visions of what it could be, until I finally brought it to the guys as it was, and realized that it could be so much more than that. So that was certainly a collaborative piece, and you heard the piano intro, and that was just Joe fiddling around like wouldn't it be funny if we did a ragtime version of this? And I'm like, yeah, absolutely, that's amazing. And we just cut that, just a couple seconds of whatever he was doing, and we're able to encapsulate that into the song as almost a prologue. But you'll only actually hear that on the record, and I specifically wanted to make sure that that version was on XRP as well, because the general streaming gets that, but the single that we have released is no piano intro, just for the sake of streaming as it is.
Yeah. I mean, moving into those realms, when releasing music that's how would we say, of a less poppy element, less mainstream element, when you're releasing this stuff, I've noticed typically you kind of push the Bandcamp stuff hardest. But yeah, where do you stand in the music industry related to kind of releasing music and getting it out there and making money or profiting of it? What do you think of and what tips do you have for releasing?
I think we stand in the cellar, perhaps under the floorboards somewhere. But I know that it's important to get your music out as far and wide as possible. So obviously we use a distributor platform. I think we're on CD Baby now. and that's been easy enough for us to upload ourselves. And like obviously, this is a completely self-contained, self-independent project at this point, that we're trying to be as self-sufficient as possible. So we obviously utilize whatever tools the internet has granted us at this point, which makes it hugely accessible to most artists. Um, and apart from like your yearly maintenance fees, it's fairly affordable for even an independent like ourselves. So obviously, getting it out on all those platforms is huge. But we do love Bandcamp and have kind of used that as our home base of operations as far as where new music can be found, because that is such a direct help to the artist when somebody does purchase a song directly from us. They're cutting out the middleman of all those larger streamings that however many hundred streams, thousands, billion streams you need to make a couple bucks on the big guys. Bandcamp at least pays us what we ask, which is great and very, very nice. Um, so that's been the place where we like to even keep older demo stuff and things you're not going to find on the general streaming. Bandcamp is the place that we can kind of have a keep our whole body of work without ever really tampering with the big stuff.
That's cool. I was going to ask because you're a bit more niche, shall we say, of a band. What's it
Fair to
like,
say.
kind of getting gigs and stuff? Because I presume you can't just jump on the metal circuit or the rock circuit or stuff like that. Is there
It
like a scene that you've managed to carve yourself into?
I'd like to think that we're kind of finding one and finding an audience, finding a general group of bands that like us and we like them, and such as obviously Sarah Safe Word, but the other local acts that have really clicked with us are an act called Second Salem, in which you can actually hear their singer Gerard Delore on a couple of these tracks on the record as well, that we have collaborated with him as well. So they're a nice brother band to us. So any of the dark scene bands, and what's funny is that I don't think you would ever imagine that none of us sound the same, and I think that's exactly the point. Is that we're not going to find another band that does everything that we do, but that's the beauty of it. We don't want to necessarily be associated with a single genre or any certain
Yeah.
scene, apart from it's been said the dark scene, I guess, and that's around the whole world really, of any dark themed music is the new movement that I think we are very happy to be associated and adopt into our cavalcade of sounds. Um, Specifically,
So
yeah.
so it's more of an atmosphere scene rather than a music genre scene, as it
I
were.
think so. It's all about the topics and the fact that a lot of us talk about the hard stuff, depression, death, anxiety, things that we deal with on the daily. And a lot of the times you're not going to hear these topics discussed in the general pop scene or your run-of-the-mill radio stations. It's all kind of danced around, I think, and you don't get the opportunity to really speak about the hard stuff or hear somebody talk about the hard stuff, I think, and that makes it less of a taboo, less weird, less scary, I think. And that's kind of our mission statement, I suppose, is to certainly we live in the dark, but we want to shine a light on that dark, or at least light a candle.
Really slick. I like it. So it's not darkness for darkness sake. It's darkness to be like this happens, so accept it.
Yeah, and it's
Somewhat, yeah.
just normalizing these hard topics, I suppose, and that I don't feel like, although it has been a great inspiration to many an artists, death in general, the death care industry, things that I have had personal experience in, are just not widely discussed. I guess topics in general, and specifically music inspiration, to marry the two. There is a mental health side of things that you hear about, but not I guess creating an entertainment to it, but also a making it more accessible in that sense. But to answer the question, it is very hard to get gigs.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would. It would you say it is mainly based on the fact of kind of promoters turning around, I guess, and saying, "I can't exactly put you on between you two and Metallica." For
Yeah.
want of better descript, they were the worst two bands that I could have picked off the top of my head. But you know what I mean.
Well, I think we could get on that bill, to be honest. If we tried real hard. But I think you'll hear within the record, we write in a couple different subgenres of you can always call it rock and roll, you can always call it alternative.
Hmm.
But we kind of, I think, have stretched out what our sound can be on this release specifically, and we're getting a little more into dark wave stuff, and I think even more so in the folksy bluegrass sense. But I don't think we ever want to be associated with any singular genre if we can help it.
Hmm. Yeah, I guess it gives you a bit more in the long run. Once you've built up a whole bank of songs, I guess you're going to end up being more versatile because you're going to have a lot of. You're not going to be one genre, but you're going to have a whole host of genres that you can put out there. If that makes sense.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we generally write our sets for any given show around that show and who we're going to play with.
Okay. Oh,
So
okay.
if we know that we're doing a more like swingy, folksy stuff, then we've got the tracks for that. We've got enough to fill a set. Or if we want to make sure played like a goth fest, Detroit Skull Fest a couple months back.
All right.
And that was specifically the time that we're like, oh well, we should absolutely bring out the stuff that's gonna stick with that crowd, which is dark wave inspired synthy stuff. Anytime I'm using a flanger pedal, because we've got the goth roots for sure.
Yeah.
Um, in bands like, needless to say, The Cure or Depeche Mode, um, and that's definitely ingrained in our DNA as an
Hmm.
artist, I suppose. But yeah, it's all over the place. But you'll hear tracks like Dollarhide on this new release, and I think that's kind of our first couple steps into a pseudo metal sound. Not that I think we're gonna run with that whole cloth,
Hmm.
but it's certainly another color in the palette.
Well, I think that's a perfect time to take a look at the that color of the palette. But before I press play, Dollar Hide, do you see what does it mean? What do you mean?
What do I mean?
Yeah.
Well, it is a reference to the Thomas Harris novel The Red Dragon,
Okay.
and Francis Dollarhide is the character, and kind of I'm certainly not an advocate for the character at all, as he is a horrible serial killer that kills families in their homes. But kind of the concept of his becoming, and utilizing that for I guess, self-empowerment in a very broad sense,
Hmm.
um, of just becoming more than oneself. And specifically, I'm a big Thomas Harris fan and Silence of the Lambs and the Hannibal series in general. So, and I don't think for Red Dragon Francis gets a lot of love these days. Though I've loved every portrayal, for to
Okay.
the Richard Armitage to Ray Fiennes as well. So I guess the listeners may. There are some Easter eggs if you're familiar with that material.
Okay. Very cool. Here we go. This is Dollar Hide DEC featuring Gerard Delort. Is this who you mentioned earlier?
Indeed, yes.
Excellent.
This is the second track that he's featured on, and this was actually not part of the original plan, but when we were in the studio, we felt like, oh man, I wish there was something else for him to, because has an excellent vocal range, but can also scream, and that's something that I've never been terribly good at, but it just felt very appropriate for the song.
Ooh. Now I'm even more interested. Here we go. Dollarhide DC featuring Gerard Law from the Picassos. If you didn't guess, as we do have Charles Urban from Such, the singer-songwriter of the Picassos. It says so on our screen, so we don't forget. That was slightly unexpected, I have to say.
Was that the first time you heard it?
Yes, it
Oh,
was.
wonderful. Excellent. Yeah,
Yeah,
I guess that would be a bit of a turn even for us.
yeah. It was. You could still. It was still the Picassos, but yeah, it was very. Obviously, a lot louder, metalier, grittier than especially the tracks that we've just played. But still, yeah, definitely has the. I mean, obviously, your vocals kind of shine through as a. An how do I put it? In their normal way, your voice is definitely a indicator, a big flag that waves. This sounds like the Picassos, obviously. But yeah, really quite. It took me back to start with because it's not metal in the in any of the typical senses, which I guess I didn't expect in the first place. But yeah, lots of reverb, lots of atmosphere. It sounded like you recorded it in a church.
That's what we go for all of this material. We go for that cathedral sound. Um, and yeah, that I guess less metal in the modern sense, but I think stuff that we vibe with. I guess early Metallica to even I don't know if you consider Typo Negative in that realm at this point, but certainly a lot of stuff that we drew from specifically for that track to embellish what our version of modern metal could be. Um, and maybe metal is even generous, but I think it's yeah, again, just another color that we can play around with if we so choose.
I mean, as it was a bit different, how did it feel to do some to? Have you performed that on stage at all yet?
We did some like early versions of it before it really got
Hmm.
solidified, but that is one that we have yet to play out since it's been released. So we are avidly working on how that's going to work out because we honestly we recorded a lot of these tracks so many months ago that we haven't even been able to touch them since. So that is one we're trying to reimagine because there really aren't many key parts on it yet
Hmm.
for our key player to embellish. So we're trying to imagine what that could sound like. So it's a journey, but
So, so
I would say it's one of the more. It came together rather fast actually from the rest of the tracks because we were kind of able to
mhm.
cut loose and stretch those thrashier legs as this.
You kind of touched on saying that there's not really any key parts for the key player in that track. Are you saying that um this album delivered on stage will be slightly reimagined to what we hear in the CD in the recorded format?
Oh yeah, definitely. Because he is such a talent
Hmm.
in our ranks that we can kind of give him a direction and he can just kind of improv and take on any which way that it seems like it fits in that moment. So that's going to be one that's certainly, and I think it really is the only track that just doesn't have any firm key parts in there. But it certainly we'll come up with something to be sure. But for the stage show, we do like to embellish things and make it more I guess intense at times, and then bring things back as much as we can.
Very cool. Yeah, I think Craig, one of our listeners, had mentioned. If you see there, for me, I really hear a lot of early Alice Cooper in the music. Very cool. Which
That
is
that's an excellent point. I would
some praise.
probably definitely cite that too.
Yeah, it's some good praise as well. For a first toe dip into kind of more metally music to be compared to Alice Cooper is quite the
That's
quite
high
the
praise,
yeah. Can't go
indeed.
wrong. Can't go wrong.
We are happy for that association, and we would love it if Alice Cooper wants to take us out anytime.
Take that. Or just go for a meal.
That'd be great. We'd love that.
I love that. Many of us would be like, "Oh, would you like to? We'll support your band, or put us on stage, or get us a record deal." No, take us out for a meal.
Take us out for a meal, Alice. We'd really appreciate it.
That's awesome. Right, we're in the last few final moments of the show. We ended up talking a lot about stuff and didn't get quite through as many of your tracks as I wished. So on that note, before I ask you to say goodbye, is there kind of a favourite track off the album, or if we've already played it, a second favourite track off the album that you'd really like us to play and you'd really like to explain for us?
I think I mean, every one of them is going to be our new favorites right now, which is really nice to see and hear. Um, but I'd probably recommend Serious Business if you haven't heard that one yet, as it is notably different than anything else that we have played today, and I think on the record specifically. A little more of, I guess, what you might expect from us if you're familiar with our previous repertoire, but appropriate as I am currently sitting in a cemetery. That track was very much inspired by my experience in the death care industry, and I guess my very fiery review of just how bad it can be for individuals that work there, and just how I don't know how this is around the world, but in the U.S., if I can get a little political about it,
Please do.
it does seem that the death care industry, and that does include funeral homes and cemeteries and just the general working with loss and grieving, it's become such a industry that it doesn't leave a lot of room for the empathy and humanity that one would expect for dealing with such human topics. But specifically working there, it is such a sales position that one gets very fed up with the concept of trying to telemarket their way into a sale when we're dealing with such
Yeah.
life-altering topics as it is. So this is a disclaimer, I suppose, that I apologize if it could be perhaps maybe triggering for one, um, but about death, dying, and specifically the funeral industry. But it is, if nothing else, serious business nonetheless.
No, I would agree. That little bleep whilst you were speaking was our. We have to get off air because we've got another DJ on after this. So I'm going to play your track and then we're going to be off. It's been really good to speak to you again, as always, Charles. I think we'll have to get the full band on and do the full album at some point if you're up for it.
Oh, we'd love it. Absolutely.
Excellent, excellent.
I want to set the whole day aside for us, though.
Brilliant. Sounds good. On that note, then, I look forward to that interview, and it's been great speaking to you once again. Any final words? Not that I'm going to kill you. I'm just going to kick you off air.
Damn. I suppose never be afraid of the dark, and stay spooky out there.
Love it. This is serious business from the Picassos. Jesus Christ, what's wrong with my...
Of the Picassos, yes.
Serious business from the Picassos, yes. See you later, Charles.
Thank you. We'll talk.
There we go.
It's an accordion.
Is it an actual accordion?
Oh, yes.
I'm in the cemetery business. I'm in the cemetery sale.
Oh, what? This is so Tom Waits.
Give me a
Thank you for
call.
saying that.
I find you a home. You know I never fail.
Oh, this is brilliant.
Since 1963, they have always relied on me to keep them close friends and enemies, and I, along with thee, write your name in Eliza's book. One drop of blood is all it took. You'll be here for eternity, right down here with me. I'm in the cemetery business. I'm in the cemetery sale. Give me a call. I'll find you a home. You know I never fail. Just going in the ground with your name all over. Don't have to be lucky or even older. There will come a day when I'll lay in my grave. That's when you'll be in the cemetery business. You'll be in the cemetery sales. They'll give you a call. You better find them all. And Lord knows you'd better not.
Brilliant. For all those watching us on social media, head over to XRP Radio now, where you should be in the capable hands of Joe and the Ecologic Effect. From me and Charles, who's still hanging on here, it's a goodbye.
Take care.
And now I press this button. Nope, not that one. Hey, I'm still getting used to this. See you later, everyone.